Did you know that your everyday morning routine, the same one you've followed for years, could be silently increasing your risk of a stroke? Many seniors never realize this, believing strokes just happen out of nowhere, like a bolt of lightning. But after years of studying the aging brain, I can tell you that the earliest signs don't begin in a hospital. They start in your own home in the first hour after you wake up. After 60, your brain is at its most fragile when you wake up. Your blood is thicker, your blood pressure rises, your blood vessels become stiffer, and certain habits, even ones that seem harmless, can triple your risk of a stroke before you even have your first cup of coffee. In this video, I'll show you the hidden morning habits most seniors don't realize are putting their brain at risk, and the simple changes that could protect your health for years to come. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss a health tip made just for you. And if you enjoy this video, leave a 1 foot in the comments, or if not, leave a 0 feet to help me improve. Now, let's begin with the first one, drinking coffee right after waking up. When I ask my older patients here in the United States about their morning routine, many proudly tell me, "Doctor, I have coffee first thing every morning. I've been doing it for 40 years. But after decades of working with the brain, I can tell you that this familiar American habit is one of the most underestimated triggers for early morning strokes in people over 60. Here's why. During the night, your body goes without fluid for 6 to 8 hours. As we get older, our bodies lose the ability to retain moisture efficiently, so older adults often wake up mildly dehydrated. This isn't just thirst, it means your blood becomes thicker. Thick blood puts extra pressure on your heart and reduces the smooth blood flow your brain needs. Now, think about what happens when you drink coffee, which is a diuretic, meaning it makes you lose even more fluid. This worsens the dehydration you woke up with. Caffeine also triggers your body's fight or flight response, causing a spike in your heart rate and blood pressure right after you wake up. For a healthy 30-year-old, this might not be a big deal, but for someone over 60 with stiffer arteries and narrower blood vessels, this sudden surge is dangerous. It can trigger a stroke. In the early morning, your blood pressure naturally rises. Adding dehydration and caffeine can cause a dangerous spike, stressing delicate vessels in the brain. This can also form blood clots. Thick, concentrated blood is more likely to clot, and when caffeine narrows your blood vessels, it increases the risk that a clot will form and block blood flow to the brain. This is how an ischemic stroke happens. Additionally, older adults naturally experience a dip in blood flow to the brain in the morning. Drinking coffee instead of hydrating deepens that dip, starving your brain of oxygen when it's most vulnerable. I remember one of my patients, an 82-year-old man from Arizona. He was healthy, no smoking history, and walked a mile every day, but he started having issues with hand clumsiness and trouble finding simple words at breakfast. Later, his scans showed small, silent strokes, all linked to his habit of drinking strong black coffee before drinking any water. When we changed that routine, water first, then coffee 20 to 30 minutes later, those problems stopped. It's not about giving up coffee, it's about timing. Your brain doesn't need stimulation right after waking up. It needs circulation, hydration, and safety. If one simple habit like this can silently push an older adult toward a stroke, you have to ask, what other morning habits are quietly putting you at risk? If you're still watching and finding this helpful, please comment 1 foot below to let me know you're with me. Let's move on to the second habit. Blood clots can silently form before you even take your first steps of the day. Let me explain why. When you sleep, blood naturally slows down and pools in the lower part of your body. This is normal. But as we age, something important happens. The veins in our legs lose their elasticity, the valves weaken, and circulation slows down. So when an older adult wakes up and sits without moving, the blood that gathered during the night stays stagnant in the legs instead of flowing back up toward the heart and brain. This is a dangerous moment. Your heart tries to restore circulation after hours of lying down, but your stillness prevents that upward flow. The result is a mismatch, thick, slow-moving blood in the legs while your brain desperately waits for oxygen and nutrients. That's not just morning grogginess, that's poor circulation. And here's where the real danger starts. It can trigger strokes. When blood stays trapped in the legs and doesn't efficiently reach the brain, your blood pressure can spike as the heart tries to compensate. This sharp rise in pressure, especially common in older adults, can rupture fragile blood vessels in the brain or worsen a pre-existing blockage. It can also form blood clots. Stagnant blood is a breeding ground for clots. If a clot forms in the deep veins of the legs, any sudden movement or stretch can dislodge it and send it upward. When that clot travels to the brain, it can block a blood vessel and cause a devastating ischemic stroke. It also decreases early morning blood flow to the brain. Sitting still prevents the calf muscles from doing their job of pumping blood upward. Without this natural muscle pump, older adults experience the lowest blood flow to the brain during the morning when the brain is most vulnerable. I treated a 79-year-old man from Ohio who believed he was simply having balance issues every morning. He described a foggy feeling, slight trembling in his hands, and a moment of blurry vision whenever he got out of bed. He thought it was just aging, but when I looked at his routine, I saw a red flag. He sat on the edge of the bed for 25 minutes each morning, checking his phone for the news. His scans later showed small clots in his brain, tiny silent strokes caused by poor circulation during the morning. When he shortened his sitting time and added some ankle rolls and shoulder movements before standing, the symptoms disappeared. This shows how something as ordinary as sitting still can be silently dangerous. Your first moments after waking are crucial. Either you activate circulation or let stillness sabotage it. A few seconds of gentle movement, flexing your toes, rotating your ankles, or rolling your shoulders can make all the difference between healthy blood flow and dangerous stagnation that threatens your brain. And if simply sitting still can cause this much harm, wait until you hear about the next habit, which millions of older Americans do every single morning without realizing the risks. The third habit is rushing to the bathroom as soon as you stand up. Among my older patients across the United States, this is one of the most common and misunderstood morning habits. Many seniors feel urgency right after waking up, often due to nighttime urination, and the first thing they do is quickly stand up and rush to the bathroom. It feels natural, even necessary. But for adults over 60, this simple action creates one of the most dangerous physiological shifts of the entire day. Let me explain what happens when your feet hit the floor. During the night, your blood pressure naturally drops, your heart rate slows, and circulation becomes steady and quiet. But when you suddenly go from lying down to standing, your body must instantly adjust to keep blood flowing to your brain. Younger adults handle this shift easily, but for older adults, the reflexes are weaker, blood vessels are stiffer, and the heart takes longer to stabilize. This creates a moment of orthostatic stress where your blood pressure drops suddenly as gravity pulls blood toward your legs. If you stand up too quickly, your brain can briefly lack oxygen, causing dizziness, blurry vision, and instability. And when you combine this moment of vulnerability with rushing to the bathroom, the risks increase. Here's why. To urinate, especially after holding urine all night, your body uses the Valsalva maneuver, a reflex that temporarily increases pressure in the chest and abdomen. This action strains the cardiovascular system, making your heart and blood vessels fight against the internal pressure. For someone over 60, this combination of standing up too quickly, walking with urgency, and straining can cause strokes. The sudden changes in pressure can rupture fragile vessels or disturb blood flow in the brain areas already affected by aging plaque. Many early morning strokes happen in or near the bathroom, where these rapid shifts take place. It forms blood clots. When blood pressure fluctuates sharply, older blood vessels struggle to maintain smooth flow. Stagnant blood in the legs, combined with the internal strain of urination, can encourage clot formation. A clot that breaks loose during this unstable period can travel upward and block a blood vessel in the brain within seconds. It places enormous stress on the heart. In seniors, the heart muscle may not respond quickly enough to sudden changes in pressure. That delay can deprive the brain of oxygen at exactly the moment it needs stability. I remember a 76-year-old woman from Michigan who came to my clinic after experiencing two frightening episodes, brief blackouts each morning right after getting to the bathroom. She thought it was just age catching up. But when we reviewed her routine, the pattern was clear. She jumped out of bed as soon as her eyes opened, rushed to the bathroom, and strained. Her blood pressure readings showed sharp drops followed by sudden spikes. She later found out she had suffered two tiny TAs, silent mini strokes, likely caused by these abrupt morning transitions. This habit feels harmless because it's part of daily life. But for an older body, the first 60 seconds after waking need respect, patience, and gentleness. Your brain and heart need time to adjust before you expose them to strain. Slow down, pause before rising. Give your body a chance to find balance before stepping away from the bed. And if you think this bathroom habit is risky, wait until you hear about the next morning behavior, a common healthy trend many older Americans follow without realizing how risky it truly is. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment 1 foot below to let me know you're with me. Now, let's continue with point number 4. Skipping breakfast or taking morning medications on an empty stomach. Among older adults in the United States, this habit has quietly become part of the morning routine. Many seniors wake up, drink coffee, take medications, and head into the day with nothing in their stomach. Some do it because they don't feel hungry, others because they're trying intermittent fasting, and many just fall into this habit without questioning its impact. But as a physician who's treated thousands of older adults, I can tell you this: for people over 60, starting the day without food is one of the most dangerous stressors you can put on your brain. Not eating in the morning doesn't just make you feel weak, it changes your body in ways that can trigger strokes and form blood clots before lunchtime even comes. Here's what happens during the night. Your body uses stored glucose to keep your brain working. When you wake up, your brain expects to be replenished. But as we age, the liver becomes less efficient at releasing stored glucose. This makes older adults more vulnerable to morning hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, not enough to cause fainting, but enough to restrict the brain's fuel supply. And the brain is the most sensitive organ in your body. It can't store energy. It needs a steady flow. When it doesn't get that supply, several dangerous things start to happen. 1, your blood pressure rises sharply. The body senses low blood sugar as a threat. So it releases stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline to force glucose into the bloodstream. This hormonal surge tightens blood vessels, which can raise blood pressure to unsafe levels. 2, your blood becomes more prone to clotting. Low glucose changes platelet activity and thickens blood. For older adults, this creates a perfect environment for clot formation. A small clot formed in the morning, combined with dehydration and blood vessel stiffness, can travel upward and block a brain vessel. This is why skipping breakfast is linked to a higher risk of ischemic stroke in seniors. 3, it triggers strokes through unstable circulation. When the brain senses it doesn't have enough fuel, blood flow becomes irregular. Blood vessels dilate and constrict unpredictably. For arteries that may already have plaque, these fluctuations can loosen debris or worsen blockages. 4, medications become more dangerous on an empty stomach. Many older adults take medications like blood pressure pills, diabetes medications, thyroid pills, or anticoagulants in the morning. Without food, these drugs can hit the bloodstream too quickly, causing sudden drops in pressure or sharp fluctuations that destabilize circulation. I once treated a 72-year-old man from Florida who thought skipping breakfast and drinking only black coffee was healthy. By mid-morning, he started feeling confused, shaky, and had trouble remembering words. He thought it was just aging, but his blood glucose pattern showed otherwise. He was dropping too low each morning. Worse, he was taking his medications on an empty stomach, which worsened the fluctuations in his blood pressure. A scan later showed he had suffered a mini stroke, likely caused by the combination of low blood sugar, dehydration, and medication taken without food. Once he added a small meal, just yogurt, a boiled egg, or a few walnuts, his symptoms completely disappeared. Breakfast for seniors isn't about appetite, it's about stability. It's about giving the brain the fuel it needs to protect itself from the morning stress. You don't need a large meal, just something small to get the brain working. Missing breakfast creates too much risk, and now you need to be ready for the next morning habit, 1, that millions of seniors think is harmless. Yet it quietly places the brain under even greater stress. The brain under a level of stress most people never realize until it's too late. 5, starting your day with stress, checking the news, emails, or social media too soon. Of all the morning habits I see in older Americans, this one is quietly becoming the most destructive. It doesn't involve movement or diet. It doesn't involve medication or hydration. It involves something far more subtle, yet far more dangerous for an aging brain: early morning stress. For many seniors across the United States, the day starts the moment the phone lights up or the television turns on. News alerts, financial updates, political headlines, emails from family, messages from friends. Your brain is flooded with stimulation before your feet even touch the floor. To you, it might feel like just checking in. But to your 60, 70, or 80-year-old nervous system, this is a shock, a jolt, a sudden wave of psychological stress delivered at the most vulnerable moment of the entire day. Here's the medical reality behind that. The human body is wired to experience a natural surge in cortisol in the early morning. Cortisol is a stress hormone, but in healthy amounts, it helps you wake up and become alert. It peaks between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m., and in older adults, this peak is even higher and lasts longer. Now, imagine adding emotional stress on top of that physiological stress. Your blood pressure is already rising. Your blood is thicker from nighttime dehydration. Your nervous system is still shifting from sleep mode to wakefulness. Your circulation is still trying to stabilize. And suddenly, you introduce fear, frustration, worry, or emotional overload through a glowing screen or a blaring TV. Here's what this combination creates in the older body. A powerful spike in blood pressure, constriction of already stiff blood vessels, a sudden increase in heart workload, and an immediate drop in blood flow to critical areas of the brain. This is not small. This is not temporary. This is the exact kind of pressure surge that brain specialists like me dread. Because for seniors, these early morning spikes come with two extremely dangerous outcomes. It triggers strokes. When emotional stress tightens blood vessels that are already constricted by morning cortisol, the sudden pressure increase can rupture a fragile artery or destabilize a plaque deposit. Studies repeatedly show that strokes occur more often in the morning because the brain is caught in this exact storm of pressure and vulnerability. It forms blood clots. Stress makes blood stickier, platelets activate, blood thickens, and when combined with dehydration, high cortisol, and emotional shock, you create an environment where clots form more easily and can travel upward toward the brain. I treated a 72-year-old Vietnam veteran from Texas who used to start every day by watching the news. He admitted that it got his blood boiling, but he thought it kept him informed. Over several weeks, he experienced episodes of flashing lights in his vision and brief confusion, signs of transient ischemic attacks. His blood pressure log showed dramatic early morning surges, sometimes reaching dangerous levels within minutes of waking. When he stopped turning on the news first thing in the morning and instead spent 10 quiet minutes breathing and walking, the episodes vanished. What happened to him is a warning for every older American. Your morning should not begin with stress, not with arguments, not with headlines, and not with stimulation your brain isn't ready to process. The aging brain needs a buffer, a transition period before it faces the world's pressures. Even 10 minutes of calm can give your circulatory system time to stabilize and your brain the oxygenated blood it desperately needs after a long night. And ask yourself this, if something as simple as a news notification can injure an older brain, what about the next morning habit? One that looks peaceful, even healthy, but carries a hidden danger no one talks about. You might be shocked by what comes next. 6. Ignoring morning blood pressure checks. The silent danger most seniors never see coming. When I speak with older adults across the United States, I'm often told, "Doctor, I only check my blood pressure when something feels wrong." And every time I hear that, I feel a deep concern, because for adults over 60, the most dangerous blood pressure surge happens quietly, invisibly, and predictably every single morning, whether you feel it or not. Let me explain what's happening inside your body the moment you wake up. During the early morning hours, the body experiences what we call the dawn phenomenon. Cortisol rises sharply, adrenaline increases, and the cardiovascular system begins pushing blood harder and faster to prepare you for the day. In younger adults, vessels expand easily and the heart adapts quickly. But in the older body, where arteries are stiffer, plaque is more common, and circulation is less flexible, this natural surge becomes risky. It is the single period of the day when blood pressure reaches its highest volatility, and it happens before breakfast, before medications, and before most seniors ever think to measure it. Why does this matter so much? Because early morning hypertension is one of the strongest predictors of stroke in older adults. Not afternoon blood pressure, not evening blood pressure, but morning blood pressure. Yet millions of seniors never check it. Here's why that's dangerous. 1, it triggers strokes. When morning blood pressure spikes, fragile brain vessels, often narrowed by age or plaque, are suddenly hit with intense pressure. Even a small momentary surge can rupture a weakened vessel or worsen an existing blockage. This is why so many strokes happen between 6 a.m. and 11 a.m., the very window when most seniors have no idea what their numbers are. 2, it forms blood clots. High morning pressure forces thick, dehydrated blood through narrow vessels. This increases friction, encourages clot formation, and can push existing clots upward. Once a clot reaches a narrowed artery in the brain, an ischemic stroke can occur within seconds. Many older adults have no symptoms beforehand because the danger is building silently. 3, it destabilizes circulation before medications kick in. Blood pressure medication needs time, often 30 minutes to an hour, to take effect. If your pressure is already dangerously high before the medication works, your brain is left unprotected during the most unstable period of the day. 4, it creates silent injuries. Many older adults don't experience major symptoms but suffer microinfarcts, tiny strokes in the small vessels of the brain. These injuries accumulate over years, contributing to memory decline, slower thinking, balance problems, and emotional instability. I once treated a 78-year-old man from Virginia who insisted his blood pressure was always fine. He checked it only in the evenings when it looked normal, but something didn't sit right with me. We asked him to measure it each morning for a week. The results were shocking. Evening readings were around 130 over 75, but morning surges hit as high as 180 over 95. Within that week, he admitted he'd been experiencing brief episodes of blurry vision and confusion, tiny warnings from his brain that he had ignored. With adjustments to his schedule and medication timing, those episodes stopped. But the most important change wasn't the pill. It was finally understanding the danger that had been building every morning for years. This is why I tell every senior the same thing. You cannot manage what you do not measure. A blood pressure monitor becomes more than just a device. It's a shield between you and the most common cause of disability in older Americans. Checking your morning pressure takes less than 60 seconds, but those 60 seconds can be the difference between a stable day and an irreversible event. If ignoring blood pressure puts you at risk, the next morning habit is even more dangerous and shockingly common. It's something millions of older Americans do every day, believing it's harmless, when in reality, it may set the stage for one of the most devastating vascular events of their lives. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment 1 foot below to let me know you're here. Now, let's continue with point number 7. 7, spending the first hour of the morning sitting still. The hidden circulatory crisis in older adults. Of all the morning habits I warn my older patients about across the United States, this final one is perhaps the most deceptively dangerous. It doesn't look harmful. It doesn't feel dramatic. In fact, many seniors believe it's good for them, a slow, comfortable way to start the day. But medically, especially for adults over 60, spending the first hour of the morning sitting still is one of the most powerful and silent drivers of stroke risk. Let me take you inside the physiology. When you wake up, your blood is naturally thicker from nighttime dehydration. Your muscles are stiff. Your stroke risk dramatically. And yet millions of seniors still begin their day in complete stillness, unaware of the hidden crisis quietly forming beneath the surface. Because if something as simple as sitting still can trigger a stroke, imagine how many more dangers are hiding in the everyday routines of aging adults. Dangers most people never recognize until it's too late. Now that you've seen all 7 habits, let's bring everything together, because the truth behind these morning risks reveals a pattern every senior in America needs to understand before tomorrow morning arrives. Protecting your brain starts the moment you wake up. When I look back at decades of treating older adults across the United States, from quiet rural towns to crowded city clinics, one truth has remained the same. The brain is not harmed by one dramatic event. It is harmed slowly, quietly, through small daily habits that seem harmless but carry enormous weight as we age. That is why the first hour after waking matters more than most people ever imagine. During this window, your blood is thicker, your vessels are stiffer, your circulation is fragile, and your brain is at its most vulnerable point of the day. The 7 morning habits we've uncovered are not abstract theories. They are real, measurable physiological threats that slowly push the aging brain toward danger. rushing your body when it needs stability, starving your brain when it needs fuel, flooding your system with stress when it needs calm, and allowing stillness to harden into stagnation when your blood needs movement. Every one of these habits affects blood flow. Every one of them increases the odds of forming clots. Every one of them can trigger a stroke in a body that no longer adapts as quickly as it once did. But there is hope, because the same habits that harm you are the ones you can change. Not with difficulty, not with expense, but with awareness, with intention, with a quiet willingness to respect the reality of an older body instead of forcing it into the routine of a younger one. A glass of warm water before anything else, a minute of gentle motion before standing, a peaceful mind instead of a stressful headline, a bite of nourishment instead of an empty stomach, a blood pressure reading instead of a guess, a few steps instead of long stillness. These small adjustments are not minor, they are medicine. They are protection. They are longevity in its truest form. The longer I practice, the more convinced I am that the difference between a life altered by stroke and a life lived fully often comes down to choices made in the quiet moments long before symptoms appear. Your brain is asking for attention, your body is asking for compassion, and your future self is asking you to act now while you still have the power to change the path ahead. Because if your mornings can quietly increase your risk, imagine how powerfully they can protect you once you finally begin treating them with the respect your age, your brain, and your life deserve. These lessons are meant to inspire you to live fully and authentically. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned and plan to apply in your own life. Let's support each other on this journey toward embracing these truths. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, BioLustra, for more content like this. And don't keep these insights to yourself. Share this video with other seniors, their families, and friends. Let's keep everyone informed and empowered. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms. Burr.